The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
Whatever you drive, however you drive. AMSOIL specially engineers lubricants to maximize power, performance, and protection in your vehicles, so you can work hard and play hard with confidence.
Another season is amongst us with season number 9 of the Triple Bypass Racing League Cup Series, brought to you by Nichols Oils Pros. Steve McClendon got the Season 8 championship after Season 8 ended at Darlington last week, and with no time to spare, let's go and start Season 9 here today. Welcome everybody to PTR TV, today's coverage of the Triple Bypass Racing League. We are racing tonight for the Capital City Clash, if I could read, that'd be fabulous, at the Richmond Raceway for 150 circuits around this 3/4 mile short track. Gonna be myself, Corey Silva, in the booth. Brad is off doing some real world commentary this weekend, so Howie Burrows, 2 weeks in a row, working with us here today. Howie, you saw the championship get locked up last week, and here we are today starting off a new season at a very difficult short track.
You almost wanted to say at the end of last week, can't wait for the next season, and then it just rolls around this quickly. Quite a few changes on the docket. 50% fuel rather than 80 is going to lead to some chaos in the pit lane, and the open qualifying you see right now wasn't quite intended, but we'll take that as an extra fun twist as we begin our race at the action track, where the turns seem to never ever stop. It feels like I was last here just a week ago. I wasn't, but it's strange that we're doing it again.
Yeah, exactly that, and a rarity as well here in Triple Bypass. We are actually racing at the track that lines up with the real-world schedule, of course. A day removed from the, I almost said Sprint Cup race for some inexplicable reason, but the NASCAR Cup Series in trucks took their time here at Richmond this weekend, so some live experience. And that's Ben Harcum there in the shot, and hopefully that is not replicated there in the race. But as you said, Howie, we have the new updates to the series, so the 50% fuel and 55% what have you, but we are keeping the tire limit the same. Of course, in the Cup race, if you watch that, tires were absolutely paramount. I don't know if that's going to be as replicated here today, but with the fuel load, it'll be interesting to see how these drivers balance it.
It's usually the limiting factor here at Richmond is just how brutal it is on your tyres. It's basically one never-ending turn, more than a mile and a half that has a straight. It's a very, very unique short track, faster than most. Can be chaotic. I was surprised by how fun the Cup Series was yesterday, and I think we're still going to see some elbows out racing here nonetheless to kick off the season.
All right, elbows out. It's another series that we have there on Wednesday nights. The iRacing actually measures their tracks differently than the advertised distance, 0.72 miles. iRacing dictates their track lengths based on the racing line. So, but you'll advertise this place in the real world at 0.75. Qualifying is coming to a close, and Kyle Gresh is looking to be our provisional, soon-to-be dedicated pole sitter. Now, Howie, you will have to refresh my memory. It's been 2 weeks for me. Do we have a warm-up? I don't know why I can never remember that.
No, we're going to go straight to the race in 20 seconds. Hope you're ready.
Okay, well that's why, because I wanted to get myself situated here. So if it's your first time watching PTR TV for Season 9, if you're following a new driver, or if you're a driver who hasn't followed us yet, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe on our mission to 1,800 subscribers. Need every little bit of help we can get there. So if you could have it click those few little buttons, we would highly, highly appreciate it. But now, since a warm-up is not on the docket, we will get situated now trackside here for the Capital City Clash for our starting lineup. Howie, let's have you start it off for us here this evening.
On pole position, we're going to call him Carl Gresh because that's who he is. Ben Harkham in P2. They're behind him, Keith Handler and Matt Harmon. Michael Hopkins and Daniel Williams are on row 3. On row 4, Keaton Cruffers and Dylan Freeman. And Donald Ristow and Steve McClendon finish up the top 10.
Stephen McClendon, our back-to-back series champion, if I am correct in that statistic. Anthony Suarez in the Tide Ride at 11th with William Emmert. Not an ice cream car. It looks like an Al Corey. We'll have to get that a little bit more detailed later. Mr. Jason Benson in 13th. Matthew Epting in the 14th spot. Pikachu and Charmander. I'm going to have to take a look at that ride myself. Ty Bass in 15th. Al Corey, the boss man, in the 16th spot. 17th finds Elton Woo, the Wooster, and Derek Cat. 19th and 20th. We have Alex Squire and our series sponsor, Tex Nichols.
25 cars on the grid, so 5 more to go. Sean Bradley's in 21st, Michael Seymour in 22nd, Nicholas Deal and Sid Kenishian that make 23 and 24, and Gary Wright is alone on the last row. Bit of a mixed up grid thanks to the open qualifying. That is an accident, and we should be returning to normal again next week, but a mixed up grid at the action track, well, that's just going to add even more unusual fun to the nature.
Exactly that here. Our race to tails here, 150 laps, stage at lap 55. Hopefully that's correct. I saw some conundrums that was wrong last week, but hopefully that is indeed the correct stage lap. 3 sets of tires, 1 backup car, 55% fuel load. I'm going to take a gander. That fuel will probably be around 50 laps. We saw pit stops at lap 35 in the Cup Series race last night. I don't think tires will degrade that much, but another little interesting tidbit here, Howie, in this series. I talked about it to you before we went live. We actually do have live weather and progressive weather, so we are in sunset now, but this will end under the lights.
As is traditional at Richmond, I love watching the iRacing snap transition when the lighting turns on. Hopefully we'll get some of that in real time. But the races here are on the snappy side when they are green. I've checked the Google event for you, which turned out to be the single source of truth last week. It is indeed 55. Thanks to Daniel Williams for sponsoring today's race. We won't be talking to him by personal request, but I'm sure we'll find a chance to speak to somebody else in the meantime as drivers come around on 1 to green for the race start.
Yep, and that was in that number 35 automobile, Alani, a new energy drink. I see it everywhere. I have yet to try it. William Emmert, just got to get a quick gander at this. Yeah, the boss man is going to like that one. What does that say on the hood? I know you have a Canadian Tire. Yes, that is a 7-year-old's rendition of Al Corey's car. That is absolutely fabulous. But either way, 150 laps. Around this short track, it's going to have the propensity to do one of two things. It's going to be a complete cluster, or we're probably going to run this thing green, Howie. I don't know what your bets are, but we're going to answer these questions in about half a lap.
You don't make it out of Richmond without getting some bruises, I'm afraid. I mean, the race does get a little bit single file as drivers head to the bottom, but eventually someone's going to lose their patience. Even in a friendly league, we go green.
Here we go, the green flag in the air from the Richmond Raceway. Season 9 of Triple Bypass is live, and let's head into turn number 1 here at Richmond, Virginia with Kyle Gresh getting the whole shot advantage on Ben Harkham there. Ben Harkham into the fence off of the corner, opening lap, opening corner. Already got some wall contact.
I'm noticing Matt Harmon currently stuck to the high side. Most drivers going bottom, a few wobbles. Oh, it looks like we might have our first spin. That looks like all the way down to the back. Keaton Cruffers, he's kept it below the line. We keep going green. Up front, Harmon has settled back in that single file groove. There's going to be a lot of single file as drivers try and preserve their tyres, but around the back, there's still quite a lot of movement, almost 3 wide.
Yeah, quickly checking out that PTR TV replay, and we talked about it, and Al Corey privied us that hospital wobble, that snap oversteer. The name of the game here in practice, and that is what got Keaton Carruthers luckily no damage. So should be able to carry on just fine. And that's wall contact number 2 from Ben Harcum there, and saw some smoke in the back of the pack as well, as everybody does get themselves situated there. Of course, on our ticker, number 27, Kyle Gresh. Nicknames are a thing that we typically don't allow in the Cup Series, but one slipped through the cracks. But that is indeed Kyle Gresh, and that is his YouTube handle if you are so interested.
You know, if I had $1 for every single time that Kyle Gresh's name was wrong at Richmond, I'd have 2. And while that isn't much, it's very strange that it's happened twice in a row.
Yeah, well, luckily the P's for the playoffs are not on there. And interestingly, we are using the high line here. Of course, in the Cup Series race last night, not to be spoilers, they were more or less pinned to the yellow line. A couple exceptions. SVG was kind of ripping the fence. Some drivers found success in that, but a lot of drivers to the bottom. We'll see what happens. But as the sun does go down, which again, that's a new thing here in triple bypass with the time progression being enabled, track temp will go down, speeds will presumably go up along with the grip levels.
And Kyle Gresh is running away from the field as it stands. A little bit side by side as we head down the pack. We're looking right now at the battle for 6th with McLendon and Freeman side by side. McLendon running that top. Freeman in the 31 as the bottom. He's going to slip out behind, not quite keep that pace going down the start finish. A lot of drivers very much settle into their line. Battling here is really, really costly, but you also sort of need to get your way past people without many chances to build up speed.
Yeah, precisely that. You see off turn number 4 here, we saw drivers in the real world running. You see, who's that? Sean Bradley running in that middle lane down the straightaway, looking to find grip here on this 20-year-old surface here in Henrico County, Virginia. But very interesting to see Sean Bradley starting so far back in the field, a top competitor, race winner multiple time, working his way through the field, currently 17th position as we are under our first yellow, and it is our series sponsor, Tex Nichols. That's airtime, and not the kind he wanted.
Reviewing the replay here, and this is going to be the first of a few incidents like this, I'm afraid. A little bit loose on the corner exit. We're warned this is what drivers were complaining about. It's typically some tight sets, but a little bit of looseness this time has forced Tex into the wall. That car not too damaged, and the fast repair will be available if needed. He should be able to sneak onto the back of the row, and we can get this going without much more disruption.
Yeah, we saw Keaton Crothers there just nearly evade that incident and kind of got hot sauced out, went high, went low, just barely missed it. But 10 laps into this race, and again, with only 3 sets to avail, I don't expect pits to be a very busy place. Maybe some drivers in the back of the field to top off, with our stage being at 55. I imagine they should be able to make that, and the fact that nobody's pitting would kind of solidify that for me.
Especially the caution laps helping you save a little. You really don't want to have to stop before the stage mark, and I hope these stages were calculated with the fuel life in mind, but I'm not a league admin, so what does that make me? First stage points on offer will be around for winning it, of course. It's going to be around 38 laps away. I think drivers will make it, although some obviously might want to make that early stop and split the strategy.
Yeah, precisely that, as again season number 9 underway here, and trying to see what these drivers can get some good momentum to start the season off. Trying to very quickly on the fly here check our schedule out. We will be headed kind of an inverse of normality with NASCAR, Daytona being race number 2. So if you like what you see here, next week at Daytona, August 24th, we will have our next race, an off week to end the month of August, and then headed to the now defunct Auto Club Speedway in the next couple weeks. So a nice dynamic schedule. And Howie, there's a couple anomalies on this schedule. We are going to be taking these next-gen cars to the Portland Raceway in Oregon, a track that they don't go to. It's an Xfinity track, but very interesting to see what these drivers will do there. But that is in end of August.
There are some unusual things Triple Bypass love doing every season. I have a classic story of this, never got broadcast anywhere, but my favorite race ever for Triple Bypass was when they sent a grid of 30 Xfinity cars to Kern Raceway. We had 20 plus cautions. It was a horror show, and I wished I sponsored that race and got that stream, because I think whoever was watching that would have probably lost their minds. On the topic of race sponsorship, you didn't even mention the best part of Daytona next week. It's my my race, you're going to have to speak to me in the middle of it, whether you like it or not.
Oh, okay, that's not our fun race. I thought you told me that was Pocono, right?
I have another race, and so there's your special favorite themes coming later in the season with Pocono, but I also have a fun race at Daytona planned. I picked up 2. It's just irresistible.
Absolutely. We also will be headed to North Wilkesboro, presumably the updated version of North Wilkesboro. That should be available in our next iRacing build. But again, that is all for later down the line, and we got to worry about the current moment. The lights have turned on, both technically and visually here, and let's get ready for the green flag here, taking lap number 14th in the restart zone. Kyle gets that huge hole shot, and it'll be between Harcum and Harmon for the second spot.
Inside lane on the restarts, loves running away with it here at Richmond. Another change they made this season is the leader gets to choose their lane. Don't think we're going to be seeing many take the outside here. Currently, Ben Harcum is stuck to the top against Matt Harmon. Have to try and not get those two confused. I have seen a few drivers on fresh tyres in some races make outside lanes work, but for now, he's just going to have to try and scramble for a chance to get back down. You're eating plenty of walls on your way out of turn 2, as seen right there.
And look at him washing up the track, at Harmon following suit, using that second lane through turns 3 and 4. Of course, we do have the dynamic track. The heat buildup causes you to want to find cooler parts of the track to find that ideal grip, and finding that ideal line that is not into the turn 2 safer barrier. Harcum's going to need to sort that out. That'll allow Harmon to clear. Now Michael Hopkins and champion Steve McClendon in the mix as well.
These next-gen cars are tanks, but I'm surprised Harcum got away with both of those, only losing a little bit of speed and not really taking a harder shock to the car. He still holds the outside. Here's the view from behind. Steve McClendon, a roll bar whiplash sim cam, as he comes in, still hugging up on the outside, leaving Hopkins in that 10, just sort of hugging down below. It's interesting so many drivers are trying to get rubber up high this early on in the race.
You can hear that and see on our telemetry that downshifting twice a lap. It was told in the real world that it was kind of driver dependent whether you wanted to downshift. Do you want to put that extra strain on the rear tires to try to get that short run grip? Or do you want to preserve those rear tires, kind of having that lesser RPM? So that is a driver choice, and we'll see what happens here. Lap number 20 still side by side. Harcum, even though he has pounded the fence an infinite amount of times, still doing quite well. Well, a little bit further back, the Wooster, Elton Wu and Matthew Epting, they are having a battle. That Terry Labonte ride in the Pokemon car of Epting. That's 13th and 14th. And then just behind that, you got Suarez and the boss man, Al Corey, there in 16th.
Plenty to see up and down, and on the topic of the Pokemon car, off he goes. Matthew Epting loose on exit, second driver to do that. Oh, he returns to the track without having enough grip. That's going to start the yellow. We were green until that rejoin just went so wrong. Yeah, precisely that. Very interesting to see how that transpired. We saw the hospital while we got loose, locked it down. Now, if he stayed below the yellow line, we'd stay green, but he just gave it all the power, and this aging surface couldn't handle it. That got him dead sideways, perpendicular to traffic, which is what that algorithm wants, to throw out the yellow for the second time here this evening. And pits are closed, I think, unless the lights are just, I think the lights might just be broken. But pits are an empty place. Checking. End of line for Sean Bradley. I'll need to re-watch that and work out if that's to do with anything or not. I'm digging through the replay file. Maybe there was contact I didn't notice, or maybe they just particularly feel like being mean to him today, or maybe he asked for it on a Discord chat that we're not aware of. That's also another possibility. Now, he's some distance from the wreck, so I'm going to assume that maybe that's a request or something else. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe someone's upset that he's no longer sponsoring the Duff beer, and now he is sponsored by donuts. So maybe someone's upset, admin, that wants the beer on the car, and they're just going to penalize him accordingly.
I think I'm reading a chat message from race start, so we can just glaze past my inadequacies and move on.
Well, I have to take your insight because I can't see all that back in telemetry.
Yeah.
So
And I need to learn that your event viewer actually has live EOLs and the chat messages don't have timestamps. So quite frankly, you could now just execute me from my phone.
Oh, precisely. I kind of forget about that. The broadcast software that Howie and I both use does have a lot of little tools in it, and I forget half the tools that it has. And yeah, it does let you know when drivers get penalties, and that is something that I do intend to sort of put on the broadcast overlays one of these days when I get some time to dig into the software. Always trying to improve here on PTR TV. Ever since 2017, it's been a never-ending mission to improve our quality here, never going for the out-of-the-box overlays, always using some custom stuff here, so sometimes takes a little bit of time for me to get stuff done, but either way, 1-2 green, and
let's talk things that have actually happened. Michael Seymour and Matthew Epting have stopped just for fuel. Tex Nichols has had a longer stop to repair some of that damage. Entering the pits late is going to get him end of line. That is real this time, but he was already quite far back. Not too much of a penalty for him at this time. So 2 drivers choosing to take that fuel, and Tex getting those repairs from his early wreck.
Precisely, and it's good to note that those drivers that did pit, it was for fuel, because again, we don't have any way to track that definitively on the tire stop. It has to be something we just watch out for. So as it stands, everybody on their initial set of tires, only 3 sets to play with. Got to be very cautious when you pull that trigger. But here we come into the generic unsponsored restart zone. Green flag in the air, 25 laps complete, and 30 to go to our stage, and a huge whole shot advantage by Gresh.
I've seen plenty of an iRacing race here in the last week, and Paul loves running away with it on every restart, especially when zones are enabled. Harkham still on the high side. I'm hoping he doesn't smack the wall coming out of turn 2, but a lot of smoke's come off that wall over and over and over again so far. We're 2 wide, many rows back here on board with Harkham's car. He's able to keep that exit a whole lot cleaner, but there's almost no one that has made the single file yet in the whole pack. He's behind the 28 of Matt Harmon on that high side.
Yep, side by side, and Michael Hopkins, he's trying to get that clean air on the nose. Richmond is a track where aero does come into play. The speeds are high enough where you do need that downforce. You don't need that dirty air. You don't need to be into the wall. Harmon taking some tricks out of Ben Harkham's playbook there, but seemingly carrying on just fine. Hopkins is clear, and he will shut the door very gently, taking that second spot.
Just behind, I have a feeling they're not done whatsoever. Now it's McLendon and Harmon. Still more wall shots at fish on the inside. There goes Emert. It's thrown yellow, even though he sticks it down there.
Yep, that is the Al Corey spoof ride here, and Al Corey has not made this mistake yet. So clearly this is what happens when you spoof the boss, is you get loose and you wreck yourself.
I heard from someone else that works on another channel that they have a lot of skepticism that some of these rebuilds have the same consistent rules about yellows. They've noticed that yellows seem to be getting thrown when they wouldn't be getting thrown on old iterations of the track. In this case, Emert was sideways, sort of sliding across as he got past, but it's very possible that tracks across the board are getting a little bit more permissive with their throwing of the yellow nowadays.
Yeah, of course, for those who are not fully, because we do have fans and family that aren't in the iRacing service. iRacing is building the new NASCAR console game, soon to be released in mid-October. And a cool thing they're doing is they're going to port these laser scanned tracks directly into the game, so that way the game has the most realistic tracks. But as it's pretty well obvious, iRacing has had outdated models of their tracks for many years, and they have been going in and one by one updating the tracks to modern standards, which is why Richmond looks significantly better than any Richmond race you'd have seen last year. But as Howie was getting at, there may be some secret updates that are beyond just visual scope.
These fuel changes are seeing some very unusual patterns open on pit road. We're seeing more drivers just sort of jump in for fuel. Alex Squire pitting right now. Matthew Epting stopped. Michael Seymour stopped. Sid Kashinian actually took tires.
Ooh.
Could have been an accident. William Emer dropped in possibly for a couple repairs. Tex Nichols also drops in again to finish repairs from his earlier wreck. We see this sort of like drip feed of drivers that are in the back of the field taking just a little bit of fuel because they're not going to lose much and it might help them later. So these changes to the fuel, they were meant to open up more strategy, and they're adding this very unusual element to the racing here where now we're seeing more people take those little bits, and because fuel mileage is going to be very, very important if races become a strategy race. Sometimes we've seen some of those on this channel. There are tracks like Daytona that are notorious for becoming fuel mileage based, and this is where we're seeing people experiment with these new ideas.
And also with fuel. Now, I'm not sure if the setups, I know it's custom setups. I don't know if the setups are built for the fuel mileage. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So if you have a setup that's not built to have less fuel in it, it's you know, the fuel is weight, that's rear downforce, puts that rear down into the track. So sometimes having more fuel will actually help the car handle better or worse, depending what the car is set up for.
Coming back around again for another restart, and our little wall trip on the inside is probably going to get a good run, but he's getting pushed along a bit by Steve McClendon, who's hoping to join him for a fast restart.
Yeah, but you can see not even close on the battle there. Gresh is just in a completely different zip code, different time zone there. Off into turn number 1, McClendon, highest he's been on the day. He has clear shot at Gresh. We'll see if he can take advantage of that. Harcum, is this the first time he's got to play from the inside of the track? Well, you can't hit the wall from the inside, because if you do, you're going to have to force somebody else into it, and that would be Michael Hopkins. He's going to have to keep that 78 Popeyes car pinched down, and I think Hopkins will be able to clear. And then is that Dylan Freeman behind? Yes, it is in the 31. He is underneath Harmon. I thought he was supposed to have Avril off the hood, but looks like that he still is sponsored by Avril, even though he said he wasn't going to be.
I mean, it's hard to find new sponsorship in this economy, let me tell you that. Saw Ty Bass through 1 and 2, running a little higher than usual. Now there's space on the bottom that drivers aren't taking. I'm watching whether he's going to try and do something similar again. No, this time he's back in line. I mean, there's one thing is sticking to the yellow. Another thing is sort of work out what to do if you do not. Whoa, what a dive. Throwing Matt Harmon up to the top lane, deciding he's had enough of running high. That's an aggressive move. Someone really had to back out of that for them to survive.
Yeah, Dylan Freeman just kind of said, yeah, I ain't ready for that right now, and I think he just backed off there. And Ty Bass kind of gives you shades of Kyle Busch of back in the day Kyle Busch, not current slow, doesn't win, can't do anything or drive a car Kyle Busch, but you know, back in the day aggressive Kyle. That's the vibes you get out of Ty Bass with some of the aggressive moves you've seen him make in races, and that certainly was one of them. But now he's to the inside of Matt Harmon and giving a lot of space to that number 28. And then Harcum still side by side, rather not Harcum, Hopkins side by side with Harcum. There's too many H's.
So up front, this time Gresh hasn't really run with it, I've noticed. McClendon catching up, and then behind it's this whole pack led by Hopkins. They're too wide, many rows back, all the way back to Avril Lavigne, Dylan Freeman, and drivers are getting real close on exit this turn. It seems like you cannot do a race here without someone failing to get a car to themselves.
Yeah, I just saw Harcum almost fill a gap that was not there. Elton Wu on the Terry Labonte car. He's battling with Keith Handland in that number 15. That 15 car down to the inside. Pumpkin. I don't think I've seen that car before, but either way, good side-by-side battle. That's what Richmond Raceway used to be known for. For us old folks that remember this track from the late 90s, early 2000s, Richmond was the action track. You'd see side-by-side racing 30, 40, 50 laps in a row. And it's both fun and frustrating when you're side-by-side. You want to clear, you want to have hard battle, but eventually it's like, let me by.
I mean, on a track where you need to go low, run top, and on the corner exit. I say that as if that's not literally NASCAR. Here I am, the Brit that seems to know too much than just saying obvious things. But on a track like this, usually with a little bit more space in order to run up close next to that wall on exit. Instead, this track is just, it feels like a mile and a half that they just fused the shrink ray on. And so you don't really just do not get the space to maneuver and move the way that you want to. And that's what ends up leading to a lot of accidents. Not any car-to-car contact yet. It's been a lot of self-slips, but they usually do come, even if people intend well.
Well, even in the real world yesterday, I think there was only two cautions for cause at all yesterday. So Richmond, as it spaces out, as the cars lose their handling and whatnot, we'll see what happens here. But again, Harcum, I don't know how that car is handling as good as it is still. As here comes Sean Bradley. Sean Bradley working his way through this field. Where did he start? He started in the 21st spot and drove that number 77 up into the top 5, and he is looking for more as Steve McClendon making some serious headway onto that battle for the lead.
I wonder how Gresh's car really handles on the long run. This is one of the longest runs we've had so far, and while he's excellently fast at the start of a tyre run, this can fall apart by the end. Fixed setup for the whole field. You can't set a car up to run early or late, but look, Lendon's just getting him down every single lap, bit by bit. About 3/10 faster every lap up to now. However, things are going to slow down significantly once you're in that sort of dirty air range of the Cup car in front, and you need to pull off some magic in order to get by.
It really drove it in deep there was McClendon. The line that Gresh is running into turn 1, it gives McClendon the bottom. It gives him all that clean air, but then when Gresh does that cut down on corner exit, dumps all that dirty air on the nose of 51, and then he just can't get off the corner. Let's just watch it right here. Watch all that open space. McClendon can dive to the center, and then right there, that merge point, loses all his air, loses his momentum on corner exit.
It now becomes the impossible point for passing, and in fact you might end up using your tyres more if you push the issue too hard. I suggest wait out the stage. You know, it's first race in the season. You can lose
laps.
1 point if you really want. Just if you see a mistake, go for it. And indeed, Gresh is running a little bit higher and higher on corners, but just sort of if you have to wait around and then settle where you are now, then go for it. He's really within that bubble though, because Gresh just seems to keep running a little bit higher. Camera's now further back in the field. I love producer brain right now. It really doesn't rock me at all from the inside out. We're looking here at Elton Wu on that high side and Matt Harmon trying to get by on the bottom.
Just as we switch, here we go. Battle for the lead.
There we go. That's the curse.
Yep, as soon as you watch something else, what you were watching for finally happened. Steve McClendon, he got the lead at the stripe that time by how much can Gresh fight? How much does he have on that super outside lane? He's either going to try something completely unique or he just lost the nose there. He tried something unique, got a really good run, surprisingly, on corner exit. Look at those brake rotors glowing.
This should eventually be clear. I've been seeing Gresh slow down all throughout the run. I have my eyes a little bit on Elton Wu and Matt Harmon's pack again, in part because it's absolutely packed to the brim over there. But I see here that McClendon still isn't really clear. In fact, Gresh on that high side, he's got a little bit more speed down the back straight. McClendon sort of has the corner. He doesn't really have the exits. He's not using all of the track on exit to use all that momentum, and it might actually give up the stage win.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, he's trying to be very cautious, and but look at that. He could easily be up another 4 or 5 feet. That could give him that momentum that he needs to make that pass. I think maybe it's here. Maybe it's here. No, Gresh is using that SVG line and battling, but just quickly to go back, nearly 3 wide. That's Emmert. That is, I think, Suarez. That is Harmon. Big kerfuffle here, back end of the top 10. We are going 2 to go. Remember, the stage comes out at the beginning of the lap, not the end. So this is coming to the white flag for the stage.
Only really 1 point in it to win a stage, but it feels nice to win the first stage of the Triple Bypass Series. Let me tell you that. McClendon still pinned to the bottom. This time he's running quite a bit higher. I wonder if that's going to give him the momentum to make this dive work properly. Now watch these drivers as they go over the line, because it could just be a drag race. Gresh is going to lose it, and this could slow him down a lot going into this final lap.
Wait, did they change it? Oh, there it is.
Nope, they were just a little bit slow. There's our yellow. McLendon takes the stage.
Or were they waiting until the 10th place car? So I don't know, but either way, usually it's right on the money. But small changes, small nuances. But it does not matter. Stage win goes to McLendon. Kyle Gresh, my brain is gravitating to saying the name, but I have to.
I've done it a few times.
Yeah, there's that loading process in my brain that has not failed me yet, but it's probably going to once or twice. But McLendon gets the advantage. I think he only led about 2 or 3 laps, but the most important ones. Now these drivers will be able to come into the pits and they'll take those sets of tires that they are ever so desiring. Howie, I don't know if you can go check your back end because we didn't really look at the fall off. I know it was crazy in the real world, but we'll see what happens. But either way, 4 sets of 4 good years and fuel for these drivers.
I'll take a look at how McLendon's laps changed, but it's going to be important to get the race off pit road properly here. So Gresh proved this time around that he can be beaten on the long run. Lots of warnings on the chat about cold tires. So looking at the fastest laps of some of these drivers in race conditions, McLendon at his best was putting down, oh boy, now everybody's moving on the pack. He was putting down 21.6s at his absolute best, around 22.6s by the end of the run. So he lost a whole second over that 50-second run.
Oh, so that is not too bad, I guess, in hindsight. But McLendon did not have the pit stop of his desires there.
Well, it looks to me like... No, hold on. That's EMA a lap down. So I'm looking at the actual pit timers here. I was looking at EMA in the lead as if... I would look at EMA in the lead as if he wasn't a lap down and waiting to get waved around in this.
Oh, he's registered as the leader.
They all took similar strategies. And no, you're actually right. He's just going to stay there. So those drivers that stopped early...
I'm actually right. Are you implying that I'm wrong routinely?
Would you believe it? No, it's just more that like I'm often right, so at least a little bit of a conflict in the booth. Yeah, these are the drivers that stopped early. They didn't take tires, so this is going to be unusual. Emot's on fairly old tires, 26 old. Sid and Squire did change tires on their last stop, but they're running 27 on the stint. So these guys are going to drop like a rock, and we're going to get introduced to LA traffic, I think, at the front.
And I will say, with Richmond, the way that Richmond is oriented, because the start-finish is on a pretty significant corner, so to speak, for a D-shaped oval, it is even easier than many other circuits to get wheel spin. So I really fear for wheel spin with the restart zone being in a corner. So hopefully the talent, the amazing talent of these TBD guys, TBP acronyms, will get them through this with minimal incident.
Eine Universally type TPB, which is triple bypass, which is wrong. So that's how I get it wrong.
Either way, let's come into the restart zone. Stage 2, which is the final stage, into the restart zone. We are stacked up like a Lego stack here, and Gresh stuck in the middle here. What in heaven's name is happening as we spread out into a massive kerfuffle into turn number 1?
Apologies on the restart from McLendon for a difficult restart, but Ema is able to run away at the start. Ty Bass is one of those drivers that stopped. Then Sid Keshinian is proving why this strap might not work in the long run pretty quickly.
Slipping into donut icing there off turn 4.
It stays in the grass the whole time around, though. Drivers were warned about cold tires at the beginning of this run, and this is self-inflicted, and I'm afraid you've got a little bit of work to do, because yes, they've just thrown a caution. I think.
And is that for Mike? Is that for Michael?
It's a different one.
Whoa! What in heaven's name?
It's Michael Seymour.
Now, I missed the original incident, but then he just looped it completely by himself on the backstretch, so I am utterly confuzzled.
Seymour's car gets elbowed by the 18.
Pikachu Thunderbolt attack. And then,
well, he certainly gets the memo.
All right, now here's the interesting part. So now, all right, let me get back up to speed here. Let me catch back up. I'm assuming that was like a shift gone bad. I don't quite know. Now, mind you, I did drive with these guys at Richmond last season. It was a night race, but this was prior to PTR TV getting the broadcast deal for this series. So I drove with these guys. I was going to be a driver. And then we got told, no, you're going to talk and press buttons instead. I finished 5th, but I don't recall these cars handling the same to what I witnessed last season. So that setup and the fuel load, maybe the weather, making this thing a little bit more difficult corner exit.
Well, the biggest change was the massive update to the next gen cars that kicked off in the back half of last season. Yeah, that really made them a lot harder to drive.
There's Tex getting a free pass back onto the lead lap. Just another little reminder of sorts, just because we always like to give thanks to those who help take part and make this league happen. Daniel Williams, he sponsored today's race, the Capital City Clash. Because, and I did have to look this up, the capital of Virginia is Richmond. For some reason, I didn't think it was going to be, but it is. And it's not Clash because it is a points-paying race. But yes, he did sponsor today's race, but per his own desires, did not want an interview. So we will allow that to be. But getting ready, I think, on 2 to green. Ty Bass on the fresh tires is our leader. Emmer in second. And then who else is up there? We still have Sid on the old tires in 5th, and then the only other one will be, what is that, Alex Squire in 10th.
So, yeah, those new tires didn't really work for most. Ema held on quite well, but now he's going to be pinned to the outside. He got that inside, which has been giving drivers a runaway for the start of the runs. Now stuck up high more than likely when Ty Bass inevitably chooses the bottom. Yep, he's called it. He's choosing the bottom. We are going to go single file instead, I've heard. Didn't get enough laps in. They do run the automated iRacing rule, where if you do not get a lap under green, you go single file on the restart. It's not used in officials, but you can toggle that on in leagues. It's just right there. Just give it a click, and they do run that.
Well, interesting things. I know there's a lot of automation tools iRacing and third-party tools provide, helping clean up the race. That's our goal. Let's see if it works. Into the restart zone, and definitely a closer second. Actually, I'll take that back. The gap first to second is quite large, and it will only get larger as those old tires of Emmert just struggle to maintain the pace as Seymour at the bottom of the track exiting the pits.
Single file certainly helps the pack settle out, but Elton Wu has decided none of that, and he's one of the earlier drivers to throw it too wide without a massive tyre differential. Ty Bass really is going to enjoy the opportunity to run away, given that Ema held the line up a little bit on the restart. Now he is running the SVG against the wall. Whoa, Elton Wu, whoa, keeps it together in one piece.
Yeah, Tony the Tiger had a big roar there off the corner, and but he'll keep things sorted out. And there goes Crothers. Remember, he was our first caution of the race, getting himself back situated in the top 10. Nicholas Deal, his deal is running in the 11th spot in the Menards, number 92. I haven't mentioned his name once here today. Other names we haven't talked about, Mac of the field, Gary Wright in the 11. I don't even think I've ever heard of him before. Maybe a new driver in the league, maybe not, don't quite know. And who else haven't we spoken of once here today? Perhaps Donald Ristow in that 25, the old DW car, that 25, battling with Daniel Williams.
Lots going on the pack. I've noticed the first side-by-side battle is between Keith from Crothers and Michael Dylan Freeman. Where did Michael come from? That's a new one. Just dug that one out of my back pocket. So that's the first real two-wide battle. Emert up ahead, not quite holding them up yet. They haven't really been able to catch. I'm surprised that Emert's pace has been remarkably competitive on tyres that haven't been changed at Richmond. Maybe they'll drop off a cliff very, very soon. Elton Wu tries to throw it in a little bit up higher. And now they've started to single file out again, apart from a few attempts to stick your nose in on the bottom of corners. I notice Emert trying to stay out of the way, very high on turns. I don't know whether that's deliberate or whether that's the car not handling well.
AMSOIL car, that was Nicholas Deal. I think that driver we just spoke about a second ago. Absolute massive hit into that turn 2 wall. Live following him, commentator Curse focused on Benson, and Benson gets himself into the pit straight wall.
I call that one the producer's prescience. You know, when you just look at a battle and that's the one that kicks off, it's producer's prescience. And commentators curses his own thing, but I own that we have abilities to see the future.
Yeah, prescience. I think that's about a 75-cent word, and I tend to stay about 40 cents in terms of my vocab presence there. But maybe I'll work that into my diction in due course here. But
sorry for being British. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I forgot to get a bottle of water. I know, but anyways, that's for later in the season. But Sid was the Pennzoil ride. He was the one that hit that wall rather hard. Now he's paying for the price. That is Sean Bradley trying to recover. Remember, he drove himself up to the top 5, spun himself out, and now he's trying to get all that work done, all that work made again, closing in on the pumpkin car. That is Keith Hanlon here, and Hanlon, his car ain't handling him very well. He was really high up the track.
You know, some accuse me of just being drawn to the Simpsons designs, but Sean is one of those drivers that frequently stands out to me in these races for a few things. One, a great personality, but number two, pretty fast, able to get his way up packs, often has things happen to him, and often ends up backwards at some point, just about to matter the best. But deep down, a driver that always ends up becoming relevant at some point in the race. He does not settle for mediocrity.
And I just like the spec map, so I'll go with that. And I actually had a great battle with him in the Triple Bypass Xfinity Series race at Homestead. Was side by side with him for many laps. Good, clean racing. We will actually be covering some Xfinity races later this season, as a matter of fact. So those haven't been ironed out, but we will get some additional coverage here of other series here via this sanction. So that'll be fun to watch. Someone who has been fun to watch, Ben Harcum. I think he just lost the spot to McClendon, who's trying to work himself through the field. As I think we may have the first inklings of lap traffic. Seymour just separating first and second right now.
Lap traffic is inevitable here on a track this small and this tight, and it's starting to come into a factor already here in this run. Seymour several laps down after his incident. I don't think he used the fast repair, but something is either off with that car or he lost a lot of pace very, very quickly. Next driver to be lapped would be Jason Benson, who is going around the start-finish now, so he's not miles off people catching him. Ty Bass is hunting him down, and each of these cars are going to be used, I think, as little picks between the leader and those behind, trying to further stop people from passing at a track that's already not the easiest to pass at.
Into the fence, running out of real estate there. That is seventh and eighth, pardon me, as we saw a little bit of issue there. Side by side is Sean Bradley working through. Now, Howie, a little bit of administrative work. There is a race recap. I didn't get to watch Darlington last week. I was up in the forest camping. I know you covered it with Brad. However, these drivers and the admin produce a race recap video that we did not show. And seeing as I don't know if there's going to be another caution flag, I think we're going to go side by side and give you a little inkling as to what happened last week to conclude season number 8 at Darlington.
On August 10th, 2025, the Triple Bypass Nichols Oil Pro Series returned to Darlington Raceway for 140 wild laps at the Lady in Black. It was the final race in Season 8, and the championship was Steve McClendon's to lose as he headed into the race with a 7-point lead over Sean Bradley. The finale was sponsored by Matt Harmon and broadcast live by our friends at PTR TV, so the Harmon Racing 140 was set to go. With 7 different leaders and 7 lead changes, the action never let up. Just 5 cautions for 15 laps added some twist to a race that demanded precision and patience. Ryan Hyatt, driving car 7, found his way to the top when it mattered most. After starting second, he had an early incident that sent him all the way to the back of the field. Pit strategy and fuel saving paid off for the 7 car, and he led the final lap to take the checkered flag. Charging through the pack was Daniel Williams in car 35, who made the most of every opportunity. After starting 10th, he worked his way forward and led 30 laps. But it was heartbreak for Williams as he got tangled up in the wall and handed high at the victory with just 2 to go. Still a great race for the 30. Right behind him came Al Corey in car 45. Corey crossed the line 11 seconds off the lead to claim third and added 2 stage points to his haul. His best lap came on 82, and pit strategy also paid off for the driver of the Canadian Tire car. Jason Benson moved up from 16th to finish 4th with more great strategy. Rounding out the top 5 was Sean Bradley, who just didn't have enough to pass McClendon in points. Our champion rolled across the line in 6th, which was more than enough to secure his back-to-back Cup Series championships. What an impressive season. Congratulations to our Darlington winner, Ryan Hyatt, and to our Season 8 champion, Steve McClendon. Great racing. We hope you enjoyed this triple bypass Nichols Oil Pros Series recap. We'll see you next time.
All right, we are back after that little Darlington race recap. Apparently it had about a minute of blank footage in there, so I apologize for that. But we are in the Richmond Raceway 150 laps, the Capital City Clash, brought to us by the number 35 car of Daniel Williams. We have had a race recap of sorts here, about 89 laps in. We've got 5 cautions, one of them being the stage, 19 laps in. S. Waltrip slash Kyle Gresh does have the fastest lap of the race.
Thankfully, the world hasn't fallen apart while we've been gone, but Michael Hopkins has gotten close to Ty Bass, who is sitting in an absolute sea of lap traffic now. We're coming around through all of the slower cars at Richmond. That is very, very inevitable. And as a result, they're really able to pick their way through drivers, and this could give Hopkins an opening if 1 or 2 drivers are inconvenient one way and not quite the other.
Now, that was a big talking point in last night's race, not to be overly spoilering, if such word does not exist, because I know it doesn't. But lap traffic definitely had a say in how that race ended here. And that's Benson. Remember, he had that faux pas off turn number 4. Caution didn't come out. There goes Harcum into the wall. No surprise to anybody. But it looks like Benson will go high, wide, and handsome out of the way, but actually not quite clear. Hopkins will have to compromise his corner exit, and that will give about a 10th or so back to Ty Bass.
So pretty much at this stage of the race,
Still
we're doing
side by
more
side.
pit stops. So it really is sort of a game of
point.
settling into your own groove and not overdoing it, I think.
Good point there, Howie. 36 laps. Again, we are not privy to any specific number. The fuel load has been limited from 80 to about 55, I believe it is, on the fuel load. So that being said, we're loosely guesstimating 50 to 55 laps, so we could be green flag stops within 15 laps. Hopefully these guys practice it. Ty Bass running the Harry Gant line all the way, the Larson, the Reddick line, whoever you want to say. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but he was high up the track. And now look at Hopkins.
Running still good enough to be in 3/10. It didn't slow down nearly as much as I thought.
Now, sometimes it's experimental. Other times it's pure mistake. Richmond is a track very easy to overshoot your boundaries, push your marks there. As slow as this place does become on old tires, very much a finesse track. So sometimes it's intentional. Other times you just missed your boundaries there. But yeah, the gap staying around 3/10. And then we have a little bit of a gap back to McClendon, who's in that bright green and blue car. Hopkins may have been a wiggle off turn number 4, lost about a 10th or so.
So they've cleared the first wave of traffic behind 1.2, 1.4. It's pretty clear further behind. Mostly now drivers, they're not doing the same sort of side-by-side battling as pace differences have really started to play a role. Looking at some last laps for these two. Hopkins is slightly faster, but he is obviously just being inconvenienced at a track where you can't just get past someone you are faster than. We saw it happen earlier for the lead at the end of the first stage. It was as a result of Gresh running a little bit higher and higher and eventually that space being opened. Right now, Bass is sticking to the bottom very well, which is going to make going any lower very hard.
Yeah, and this is the time in the run last time where McClendon was able to get by. McClendon got by, remember, for the stage, about 45 laps in. Ended up getting that stage win over Ty Bass. Actually, over, I don't remember who it was. Was it Ty Bass? I think it was. I don't remember. But either way, late in the run was the time usually the comers and goers do come into play. No, it was Gresh. That's who he was battling. But Ty Bass starting to struggle later in the run. But getting to that point where if you can struggle and get to lap 50, we're probably going to be pitting again. So he only needs to suffer for a few more laps.
Closer and closer and closer he goes. Maybe he will wait for the pit stop and just hope that he can maybe beat him out on the line, or we could see an undercut or overcut strategy take place. We're seeing our first ones. That's Kyle Gresh. Was fastest on the track earlier today. Wasn't really able to get it back this stage. Maybe he feels like fresh tires are going to be what it takes as the first to make this major dip.
And this should, 54 laps to go, I would imagine would be the final stop. I believe most drivers will have an additional set on the wall for a strategy set if a late race caution does come into fruition, but should be the final stop for requirement anyways. Keaton Crothers getting by Ben Harcum. That's for 4th spot, so a great recovery from that 809 who basically started the race from behind with that very early spin.
I think it proves that pace can certainly, with enough restarts and enough bunching together of the pack, get your places here. Now it's settled down so much, though, we're really not seeing that same sort of response from people, and it's becoming about the long run as we have the longest green run of the day so far. You're catching more drivers jumping into the pits. I've just noticed Sean Bradley jump in, but there's plenty right now. Anthony Suarez just had his run in there. Nicholas Deal is in right now.
Yep, there's Risto is in. And this turns into that old famous game of overcut, undercut. At this point, let's just pull up our telemetry, our last lap telemetry for Ty Bass. You can see he is 1.3 seconds off his best lap, and that lap would easily be achievable with how the track temps have gone down. So every lap that you stay out, you're losing a second to a driver that has already pitted. Now here comes the Pennzoil car of Sid, who is going to get on by using that super outside lane. But for all those drivers that have already pitted, here comes Ben Harcum. Again, that's going to be 1 second a lap, and that adds up. And then you have to try to get that all back if you're going to pit late. Here comes Hopkins. This is a great call. Locks it up on entry, but Ty Bass has to pit the next lap. He doesn't have a choice.
Maybe they were just waiting out caution, but as well, the fuel life lasts roughly this long, and Ty Bass is not going to get anything for sticking another lap out. I'll keep an eye to see if there's any unusual black flags given out. Everybody's gotten away with it. No, he is running it long.
I mean, I am not a crew chief. I don't claim to be one, but I don't understand that one. But maybe it'll come together a little bit later. Ty Bass, Keaton Crothers, and Al Corey. Our top 3 now as we'll put the stints on the ticker.
Well, that might be what you were looking for. If you're Ty Bass, getting a few. Of
course, Tex Nichols is in it. Tex wouldn't have luck. Oh, he got himself loose. An innocent bystander, Gary Wright. No, that's not the right direction for Gary, but he'll have to make do in that number 11 car. Now, this is huge from the perspective of being a lap down. Gresh a lap down, Bradley a lap down. We only have 6 drivers on the lead lap right now, and Benson is queued up as the free pass beneficiary. So everybody else is going to have to take a waiver out, start at the end of the longest line on slightly older tires. So that is absolutely catastrophic.
If Bass got a couple more laps under that before a caution, he would have fresher tires by the end of the run and really be able to take advantage. Unfortunately, only really gaining 1 or 2 on the field is probably not going to be a difference enough, and he might actually get dropped to the back as a result of this.
Well, let's see here. So now Derek Catt, he stayed out. Now that's not something that's going to last. Harmon the pits, but no, I lost your complete tangent there, Howie, so I apologize for that.
Bass has come out P2. Well, Bass has come out P2 because of the rest of the field stopping.
Yeah, Bass, because again, there was only 6 drivers on the lead lap. So he made his pit stop under normal circumstances. Everybody else taking the wave around, so they're going to start absolute tail end on their older tires. So Bass has the lead on the freshest tires. Gresh, he's going to start, you know, however, wherever in line, but he's still stuck on those 9-lap-old tires.
So I was thinking a caution would be what would flip things on their head for Bass, and he very much got what he was looking for. At
a track, you know, at a Michigan, a Pocono, a Indianapolis, a road course, or a track where you don't lose a lap, you want that caution to throw things off because it will benefit you. But at a track where you lose a lap, making that pit cycle, you are just praying the whole time that the cycle comes through. Otherwise, this situation happens. The best thing that can happen for anybody who pitted, a Gresh, a Bradley, a Wu, is another caution, maybe in about 15, 20 laps, that brings everybody else back in and allows things to reset. That's going to be what they're going to hope for, but we'll see what happens. And I will say the odds of it happening are a little bit high because we're coming to 30 some odd laps to go at a short track.
Ancient tires, Derek Catt on the bottom line, 55 laps in. So I wonder what's going to happen to this inside line. I think they're all going to get a little bit stuffed with a very slow driver on that start, and this gives the chance for Ty Bass to hopefully, just for in his case, hopefully jump in front for the start as we approach. Let's call it PTR TVV start zone.
Yeah, it's generic, but we'll put some sponsor to it. Green flag in the air. I mean, he can't even have much fuel left. How much fuel can he have left in that tank? 55 laps on these minimal fuel cells, but going right around the outside with minimal issues there. He's trying to get that car situated. Everybody trying to go to the outside. Bass gets it, and Waffle House into the wall. And more. Donald Bristow. Under caution.
I was literally about to say we stay green, and then more has to happen.
So that was Alex Squire in the Waffle House car. And that was a self-induced little spin. And then what happened to Donald's? Oh, he got spun by Gresh.
Listening into the chat, they're all good, by the way. This ain't beef, but it tells the story. 25 checks up for the wreck on the bottom. Gresh can't see it, and so isn't prepared for that 25 to stop right in the way.
Yep, so for Squire, very minimal issue there. And I mean, ultimately, I don't think the issue is that bad either way, but this will allow everyone to pit. Now, what this does is it eradicates the end of longest line, the mix-up in the field. Everyone's going to be where they should be. The part of this that is still less than ideal. Oh, Gresh, he's going to pit. He actually has damage. A fair bit of concave nature to that front grille. But what about, who else is there? Sean Bradley, he's going to stay on the track. We'll put the stint ticker back up one more time for you folks at home, and for myself indeed as well. You can see Sean Bradley 11 laps, Harcum 9, Deal 11. That's the part that is going to hurt them. They're going to need another caution to force Bass, Crothers, and company to come in.
Of course, in this series, you get what is called the fast repair, and if you don't know, that means you can get a full repair to your car's damage for once, instantly, no matter how bad it is. Take the damage again, you end up out of the race. Now we're so late, if you haven't taken the fast repair and you take a bump and it's going to slow your car down, you might as well just jump in, take it, and restart the race from that perspective, and that's what some drivers here have chosen to do. We are green, and Ty gets the launch he is looking for off the start. Matt Harmon's way faster on that restart than P2, though. Brothers is slow. Ducks up in front of Al Corey on the inside. On the outside, Daniel Williams is loose, and he gets into the wall. Sean Bradley slams hard into the front. A lot of cars went a little bit sideways. It starts with Michael Seymour into turn 1, if that helps you at all. Nobody really got wiped out, but this sort of triggered a little bit of a chain of people getting a bit wobbly and taking a few dents. Barney never gets tired of throwing that thing, let me tell you that.
Absolutely that. I may have accidentally hit the mute button on my keypad here, so thank you for letting me know. Hopefully that wasn't for too long, because I was talking the entire time, but it happens. Producer World here, who's getting the free pass right now. It is somebody. Go driving by pretty quickly. That is Sid in that 19 getting the free pass here. That'll put 14 drivers on the lead lap here with 30 some odd laps to go.
Keith Handlin would be next in line if we were to have a funny little moment again, but a few drivers haven't really caught this pack. A lot of this group hasn't quite. I might need to interrogate just how long you'd be rooting for, because over here you sounded fine to me. I just do my job, and everything else, unfortunately, becomes your responsibility. Bit of a yellow fest in the final stage of this race, and it might lead to some more desperation when it comes to the very end. Eventually we'll get a dash to the line, but the laps are ticking down, and they are so fast here.
Yeah, they have a little Stream Deck box, and so easy to accidentally press that button here. But either way, we'll see what happens. I think about a 7th or 8th caution. Ty Bass has that lead. How many laps has he been in front of the Capital City Clash? That is a number of 58 laps. And I said that there need to be a caution around lap 130, Howie, to do a full reset, help those drivers out that are stuck on those older tires from that caution cycle. I'm starting to think we may have already made our beds, and even if another caution comes out, I don't think... There's 14 drivers on the lead lap, but I'm starting to think beds may be made for the rest of the race.
Certainly very few chances to get it on long run now, and short run can become a bit of a physical slugfest around here just because of the nature of this circuit. So Ty Bass is enjoying every chance he gets to not have to deal with the long run and instead of run away with his very successful launches out of the restart zone.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That outside driver just not been able to do anything here today, and I probably see that same thing happening into that generic PTR TV restart zone. Harmon probably did the best of anybody, but even that still is about a 0.3 of a second loss entering the corner. Al Corey showing his muscle here late in the race. Top 5 for that number 45. How much can he get? Can he move that 45 further up to the field?
Currently stuck between two, running too wide. Kurfers on the inside, the 809, and Matt Harmon on the outside. Matt has a good run on corner exit, still pinning down the 809 to the bottom, but not quite getting clear. I see a lot of the pack compressing behind, but we're 3 wide, starting with Jason Benson.
That's Kyle Gresh in the back trying to sort things out, but Benson was there, and then you have Daniel Williams, our race sponsor, and Elton Wu And then here comes Michael Hopkins. Remember, he was someone who was going for the race lead and got stuck a lap down and trying to make the most of it, matching his car number here in that 10th spot. And who is that? That's McClendon. We kind of forgot about him as well. He was thrown it. Actually, he's a lap down. I don't quite know if something beyond even scope happened with him, but he's a lap down fighting for that free pass spot. Has to get up to Emmer, who's directly in front of him.
Ty Bass only has 4 attempts on Matt Harmon. It would be good enough in about the 10 minutes of green flag racing that would resume, unless Matt pushes hard, but it's not totally unassailable if that pace doesn't come out of nowhere, if that pace comes out of nowhere. You know, my brain ain't working and I am on the American sleep cycle right now, so no need to worry about me. That aerodynamic Keithan Crawford's not really pushing up the Harmon. I think Corey, if he's able to extract a bit of pace.
That is Keith Handlin, not handling them very well. And this, Howie, I said they need a caution at 130. What do we get? 129. So as close as you can realistically get to that guess. Let's see what happened there. They were 3 wide. Emmert maybe didn't know they were 3 wide, or the 15 didn't know, but either way, contact made. And a little overcorrection tactic there. Now this, I'd say, is the last opportunity to come to pit road for anybody. We're catching up to the pace car. 25 laps to go. They should have another set on the wall. If enough drivers come, I think it's a good call, but you don't want to be the only one.
Doubt we'll see emergency pit stops on a run this short, but it certainly does change the nature of the game.
They're on the apron. They're faking out. They're faking out. Here comes Bradley.
See if anyone takes that bait.
That's a good call by Bradley. Remember, he's on the 10-lap older tires. There's Gresh. There is Daniel Williams. That's only 3 of them. So that'll put them back to a minimum of 11th, maybe giving up 4 to 5 spots. I don't know. I don't think you weren't going to win the race, and I don't think you're going to lose. I think you'll probably get back to where you were, maybe a net gain of 1 or 2. But we'll see what happens. For those up front, they're certainly, their bet is made. But actually, let's take that back, Howie. 21 laps. I think that might be a tangible distance. Maybe this could work. We're going to ask here in chat how many cautions. Dominic Zanobi asking, and he's sponsored a fair amount of races last year. We are on our 9th caution for 32 laps here. First stage went predominantly green. I think maybe 1 or 2 small incidents, but second half of the race, as kind of expected for a race that is a short track, it's been a little bit more of a cluster of sorts.
So, yet again, probably savouring the chance to run these laps slow, not pressure the tyres, and get more and more good restarts in a row. Time is really running out, and when you're on the high side of Richmond on a restart, you can get almost nothing done for a while.
Yeah, it's exactly that here. And Steve McClendon, I don't know if you're able to do any recon for me, Howie, but not sure what happened to him. I'm pretty sure he was on that less than ideal pit situation with the caution throwing things off, but obviously a driver who has been pretty good in the race and now is not in an ideal situation. But either way, we are on 1 to green.
This is a lot of recon to do, but I'll have to hit that rewind and go very, very, very fast.
There's no need to go into the time machine too far, but perhaps someone will be able to privy us. I know some of the drivers even listen live and text and drive, which we don't recommend, but if it gives us little tidbits of information, I guess I'll let it slide. But let's see, one of the most important, maybe, could be the final one of the race. Maybe, could be, maybe not. We'll see. Into the restart zone. Let's try it again. And the jump goes to the leader. No surprise there. Can Harmon clear for second is the question. And the answer will be a resounding yes. He will clear, get to the bottom. Crothers into third.
Also gotten caught out in unusual pit strategy because I couldn't see anything crazy happen. Back to real time and real racing indeed. Ty Bass 4 tenths as ever.
Woo! Hopkins.
Well, welcome to Richmond. Here we go. Do I need to get the southpaw corn out again? Oh, big contact between Hopkins and Wu on that one.
Yeah, let's sort things out here on our instant replay. Just getting things triggered up here and get a slightly better camera angle of that. Watch it live from, well, not live. Oh yeah, not clear. 10 kind of cleared himself in front of one of those drivers there, and there was multiple facets to that caution as well. There was about 3 separate incidents that happened, but either way, that will put us under our 10th caution, now in double digits. Here to start things off in race number 1 of season 9, and Sean Bradley did crack the top 10 and I think evaded the majority, if not all of that.
It was Hopkins into Cat that started that, and then Wu was just sort of a victim caught. Looking at the fast repair situation, Wu's already at fast repaired his car once. Hopkins has not. If you're going to take it, now might be the time to do so. I think maybe Wu just thinks he's going to be able to repair off some of that, jump on the back of the pack and hope more of that happens.
Now the hard part of all this is this, if you're Sean Bradley, who is the highest on the fresh tires, you need some laps. Even Sid has 6-lap fresher tires than everybody else. 26 laps for Ty Bass and company, a lot of those under yellow, but you need laps to go by. You're not going to gain spots. We're going 4 laps under caution, so maybe get 2 laps of racing, 4 laps of caution, 2 laps of racing, 4 laps of caution, then the race is over. So for those who pitted, they need this race to situate itself out. But let's just quickly kind of run through the field very, very quickly, because I probably should have did this earlier, but too late doing it now. Ty Bass leading this thing. We have Matt Harmon in second, Keaton Crothers in third, Ben Harcum in fourth, Al Corey running in fifth, with Jason Benson, good recovery, in sixth, Derek Catt in seventh. And then we have Nicholas Deal in 8th, Sid Kashinian in 9th, with Sean Bradley in 10th. Just going to speed on through this. We got Kyle Gresh in 11th, Steve McClendon in 12th, back on the lead lap. Michael Hopkins in 13th, Anthony Suarez in 14th, Elton Wu in 15th, Daniel Williams in 16th, and then off the lead lap, we have Risto, Epting, Hanlon, Dylan Freeman, William Emmert, who's had a chaotic day, Gary Wright, Michael Seymour, Alex Squire, and Tex Nichols has since retired from the event.
We have a Nichols Oils Pro Series first, an outside lane choice by Ty Bass on this. This is very unusual. There's only going to be 18 laps to go. I'm not quite sure if this is going to work out for him, but he's committed to his choice. He's laid his bed, and he'll get to start the race from the outside lane.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but he gets the jump. I'm not sure thought process behind it, but it worked, which is all that really matters in the end. Harmon, he's actually closer than any restart he's had prior, so I guess he's actually pleasantly surprised that happened the way that it did. Harcum, how that car has continued on is beyond all of our scopes, with not many times he's hit the wall today. Hasn't even done the fast repair, but he's battling on the outside, third spot with Crothers.
Further down the field, it's really too wide from Bradley back. Bradley sitting in 8th. That car's holding up remarkably well despite the damage. Kyle Gresh also in this mosh pit as he jumps to the bottom and into the side of Cat. They both save it. Ricky Rudd would be proud. We're still going.
Yeah, that was just a bulldozer move by Gresh. Again, fresh tires trying to get through the field, and certainly, I guess that's one way to do it. Massive contact into the wall. I think that was Pikachu, if I'm not mistaken, into the wall there. But either way, Harcum, speaking of the wall, I wish we had a wall counter for him. Might be at about 6,000 at this point or so. But 14 laps to go. That's 5 minutes of racing. Harmon keeping Ty Bass in check here. Will we have a battle for the win? We know Ty Bass falls off towards the end, but there's not a lot of end left here.
And actually finishing the pass here is going to be so much harder. Bass's tyres, it says a 33 stent, but really these laps have probably done less than half of that of actual racing. So they all feel quite good. They're all pretty even on each other, and differences in wear, they've not really become a factor yet. So I think that Harmon's going to need to take advantage of a legendary mistake, or he's just going to have to settle into and enjoy a third. Further back, everyone single file except for, well, the 42 of Benson on the high side. I thought that was going to be McLendon diving down.
Now these drivers here, Hopkins and Bradley, they're fighting. They're on the fresh tires, and they're fighting with the drivers on the open. Well, they're fighting with themselves to try to get through the field. Gresh into ninth. These tires not as advantageous as I would have expected. Do believe that the dirty air is kind of hindering some of the good of those Dr. Feelgoods. Gresh into the wall, Hopkins into the wall. I think at this point, I'm struck they haven't shortened that foam barrier off turn number 2.
Safety first, even in the stem wells. You don't want any of these triple bypass races getting injured. Let me tell you that. Ty Bass, runaway and out 7/10. His gap's only gotten worse and worse and worse.
Oh.
As I looked up front, that smoke off the wall, you wouldn't believe who it was. It was Ben Harkham again. Crazy that wall should have a stripe on it. You know, enough cars to pin it today.
Surprisingly, NASCAR 2000 on the PlayStation 1 actually was able to put a contact stripe against the wall when you hit it, and that was 25 years ago. But hashtag soon, maybe one day we will get here in the sim. If so, as you said, the whole track would be black. We have mutilated the fence, but we are now sub 10 laps to go in the single digits. Remember, we do have green-white checkers on the table if we need them. Not to say we want them, but they are on the table if we need them. I don't think we will, but commentators curse, producers, whatever that word was you said, we'll see. But Harmon's starting to lose his giddy up here. What was 4/10 is now pushing 8/10. Steve McClendon on his comeback tour here. Remember, he was a lap down and all sorts of issues going on, strategy not working his way, but he's battling with Hopkins here, trying to recover and salvage the best he can out of the race here. But Hopkins pulls ahead, and then Kyle Gresh pulls now to the inside.
Knew I was going to speak with my mute switch on at some point during the race. I was waiting for my time. Because every race I do it, and finally that was my time. Looks as if Hopkins has cleared Gresh, who I almost got wrong again. It's like he's trying to trick me on purpose. And McLendon, who's pinned to that right rear, but not making any purchase.
Let's see, yep, finally. Gresh will cement himself in that 8th spot. A little bit of work to be had ahead as we're side by side. Nichols Deal, who has worked through the field pretty decently here. The outside of Hopkins. Al Corey trying to hold on to that ever so pivotal 5th spot. As I always say, Howie, as a driver, a top 10 is something, but a top 5 is it's an extra stat. It's an extra check mark. You didn't just get a top 10, you got a top 5. So I fight for that 5th to 6th spot like it's 1st to 2nd, and that's what Al Corey's trying to do right now.
Well, I know NASCAR drivers and fans don't really believe in podiums. They believe in the law of 5s. That number does divide quite a bit better, let me tell you that. Corey struggling to hold on, though.
And
Hopkins diving to the outside. I thought he was going to try and force something ridiculous free. To be honest, he might force something ridiculous free. We're running out of time. Only a couple laps to go and less than a minute of it. But Al might just lose this place to Deal after all is said and done.
You said Corey was struggling. I'm like, I didn't think I was doing that bad here today. But, of course, Al Corey, as he may lose that pivotal 5th spot. But we're coming down to 1 lap to go here, sponsored by We Do Not Have a Sponsor. For Ty Bass, this race will end under the green flag conditions. He will have led if he can make it around another half mile or so, 92 laps. In a dominating effort here in the Capital City Clash for Ty Bass, trying to start season 9 off with a bang, and he'll do just that. Coming off turn 4, round number 1 complete, and give it to the 2 car.
Matt Harmon finishes cleanly in second ahead of Keaton Croppers. It's Nicholas Deal that beats Al Corey to the line for fifth, with Hopkins beating out Gresh in that little battle we saw.
Yep, so Al Corey does not get the check mark in the column for the top 5. That'll have to wait for another week to get a top 10 though. But Ty Bass, he'll get a check in the win column. He'll cement his playoff berth as early as physically possible, doing his little victory celebration here on the front straightaway, burning it down here at the Richmond Raceway. Full congratulations go to him here in the Capital City Clash, brought to you by Daniel Williams. And while he burns it down, let's go and give you the final rundown of results here today from the Richmond Raceway. Final margin of victory ended up being 1.5 seconds. We were calling a battle down, and, well, it didn't happen at all. Matt Harmon with the second. Crothers, good recovery, gets on the podium. And third, Captain Wall, Ben Harcum, with a fourth, beyond all belief to us. Nicholas Deal in fifth. Al Corey loses that top 5 at the very end. Then we have Hopkins, Kyle Gresh, Steve McClendon, and Sean Bradley.
One of the last times you had to say that name today, so you had to make sure to get it right. At 11th, Derek Catt ahead of Elton Wu, Sid Keshinian, Anthony Suarez, Daniel Williams, Jason Benson, William Emmert. I always say Emmert, and I know that's wrong. Donald Bristol and 18th, Keith Handlin in 19th, and Matthew Epting in 20th. Only 5 left to go and only 1 retirement.
That's Dylan Freeman in 31st. 31st? I added 10 drivers to the race. In 21st, with Michael Seymour in 22nd, Gary Wright in 23rd, Alex Squire, and our series sponsor here in the Cup Series, Tex Nichols Shotgun on the field. If it makes you feel any better, I say Emmert. I just kind of interchange them, even though I'm not supposed to. But let's head straight to Victory Circle, where we will find our race winner, Mr. Ty Bass. Ty, you got this thing cemented down. Couple challenges to be had, but at the end, worked all your way. What was it like here on track here tonight?
Yeah, it was a pretty fun race. Once when we would get going on the long run, tires would wear pretty good. I was down into the 50s and 60s right there on that long run right before the green flag pit stop stopped. So good race overall, pretty fun to drive, so had fun.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. As soon as Hopkins was battling with you and he pit first, and I'm like, all right, Ty's gonna pit the next lap, and I'm like, wait, what? He stayed out, and I'm like, oh man, what a bad decision. And that ended up being the right decision. Was there any thought in your mind on that cycle to pit to minimize the time loss, or did you have some strategy that ultimately worked out for you?
No, not really. I just it kind of seemed like the lap times leveled off a little bit after like 35 laps. So I figured if I could just stretch it out long enough and then have the newer tire advantage at the end, I knew I would have to have it to get by him. And I was scared even with 1 lap, newer tires, he was going to jump me and I wasn't going to be able to get around him with the dirty air. So really, I was just going to run probably another 5 laps there in the pit. However it worked out, it would have worked out.
Yeah, well, obviously that caution has worked in your favor. Next week, we head to Daytona, a completely different can of worms, so I don't think I've really seen you on a plate track, so what can we expect out of you at a drafting track next week?
Yeah, I'll just get up front and try not to wreck. Really, that's all you can do there is got to put yourself in position, especially with these cars at the super speedways. They're a little different with the aero stuff, so I feel like you have to be up front to win. I don't think you're going to come from the back. So just try to stay up there and stay out of trouble and see what we can do.
Yeah, well, you make it fun for us to watch, man, and I bet you'll do that for us next week. Congrats on the win.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Howie and I will give you second place here. And we got the 28, Mr. Matt Harmon, and he's with you.
Non-stop action here at the action track. Talk us through the race that got you to PT.
It was definitely nonstop action. We had a bunch of cautions there. I tried to wade through most of them. Didn't get caught up in any of them, luckily, and I was able to get through the pit cycle and get back up front.
Well, the end of that race, it was going to be very, very hard for you to make it up, given all the cautions. But do you think anything else could have held you back from taking that win, or do you think you got pretty much what you could with such a fast leader?
Ty, man, he had the car to beat tonight, and he switched it up on us. The new rule for this season, where the leader has lane choice at the restarts, he switched it up and went to the outside. I really couldn't see him when he took off, so he got a heck of a jump and just ran away with it.
Well, it's tough to hold on to position here, let me tell you that. Do you have any other thank yous or shout outs?
As always, thanks to Tex Nichols for sponsoring the series. You guys for always putting on a great broadcast. All the rest of the admin, as well as my lovely wife at home that allows me to do this 2 or 3 nights a week. So,
well, I consider it a pretty good start to a long season up ahead. So, look forward to seeing you again.
appreciate it, guys.
All right, that is second place, and we'll round out the podium here with Keaton Carruthers there. So, Keaton, you had the ultimate comeback because you self-spin very early in the race, had to drive yourself through the field. You did it multiple times and got yourself on the podium, man. Just kind of summarize how this 150 laps went for you tonight.
Yeah, I was hoping you guys didn't see that spin, but apparently you did. But yeah, no, it was fun driving back through the field. I think all of us kind of got lucky on that caution kind of during the pit cycle there, but I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was lucky to catch that, but yeah, we saw a couple drivers have that same kind of late corner snap, and obviously you worked through without any kind of issues. But obviously a couple changes here in the series. We did have day to night, which was different. We didn't have static weather, but we also had the limited fuel load here. How much different was that? Kind of having to plan your fuel stops here much earlier, specifically on a short track.
Yeah, I don't know if it really came into play tonight. At least for me, I mean, it was just too many cautions, so I kind of took the fuel strategy out of it. But yeah, I didn't think too much about it, to be honest. Tonight, hopefully we get some races coming up where it does, though. Yeah,
next week Daytona. Sometimes that will come into play there. What kind of drafter do you put yourself as? Any confidence there that you can sneak one out at Daytona next week?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I like the super speedways. I usually play it pretty conservative, just kind of roll in line until the end there. But I feel pretty good. Did pretty good last year, so I'll take it.
All right, man. Well, congrats on working yourself through the field, getting a good salvage out of a race that didn't look like it was going to go well for you. And we'll see what you can do next week.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
All right, so that'll round out our broadcast here today. Even though we had, I think it was 10 cautions, we still ended this race kind of right on the allotment that we like to. So what's your final thoughts, Howie, before we sign out?
Good way to start a long season down the line. You might be hearing a bit more from me next week, whether or not you pay me to be in the booth, because I'll be taking the field to Daytona in the Wreck-'em Deck'em Crash Box 80, where I anticipate you'll have to deal with some big ones as ever. My ego might get in the way if no one else does, All
right, maybe we'll have a little commentary on board and kind of have some fun with that. Who knows the ideas that will spring about here. But make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe on our mission to 1,800 subscribers. If it's your first time, don't make your last. Just help us out. Hit those little buttons here. We will be back live on Wednesday night. Brad will be live with the Elbows Out Racing League for some multi-class road action. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll be back Sunday night again at the Daytona International Speedway. That's going to be Corey and Howie signing out of the booth here today. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.